I want to start with where you're at, and then we will go out geographically from there. You won 2 of those 3 Super Bowls with the Denver Broncos. Since John Elway took over, I think Teddy is now the 11th starting quarterback they've had. Do you agree with the decision to start Bridgewater over Locke? And do you think, because the Broncos got a good roster, do you think if Teddy can start the whole year, they can compete in the AFC West?
I don't think that they can compete in the AFC West. I mean, I think that goes to the Chiefs, but I think they can compete for one of the, to me, you've got the 4 division winners, and you're going to have somebody probably, whether Baltimore or Cleveland wins the division in the North, you're going to have one of those teams in the playoffs, and then you're competing with, 5 other teams for the last 2 playoff spots. So I think that's kind of where they are right now. Do I agree with the decision? Absolutely, because Teddy Bridgewater is a better quarterback. And I think what ends up happening from a fan base standpoint, because I think the fans are fairly annoyed or disappointed, is they see Teddy as a journeyman quarterback. And they say Drew Lock with potential upside. And they're looking at it like, hey, man, the upside is worth the investment. Let's keep going. You as a coaching staff, you as a football player don't have the luxury of saying, hey, in 3 years, we're going to be good. If you're not good today, you're going to lose your job. That's playing in the National Football League. That's coaching in the National Football League. And when coaches are grading players, they do it differently than fans grade players. Fans see athleticism and splash. Coaches see consistency. So it's really easy to watch Giannis in basketball play and see the slam dunks and see the incredible athleticism. That's easy. It's really hard to see the nuanced game of the Joker and wonder why he gets accolades, right? Because at the end of the day, you watch the Joker play and you're like, well, how the hell did he have 31 points and 17 rebounds and 10 assists? I didn't see it because you don't see any of the big splash plays, right? And consistency is more important. And you look at the way this team is built, they want consistency. So I'll give you an example. In the first preseason game, Drew Lock throws a ball that's 80 yards on a post route to KJ Hamler versus quarters coverage where the safety bites up, and it's a beautiful play. It's 60-plus yards in the air, and everybody in the fan base goes, oh, my God, it's incredible. This guy's going to be awesome. And then you get into a coach's room, and I wasn't in there, but I'm just telling you what happens in a coach's room. They say, what took you so long to throw that ball? That ball should have come down at 47 yards. Why are you waiting an extra second before you launch that? In a regular season game against real players, against the number ones, you're not going to get that extra second. You're going to get a mouthful of Rydell. And you know what? That's going to be an incomplete pass or an interception. So they'll look at that great play and say, yeah, it was a great play, but there's always a caveat to it. And so you're coaching consistency, you're coaching execution in the pocket, you're coaching how quickly the ball comes out of your hand, not the splash play. And that's where fans have a really difficult time understanding why Teddy was anointed the starting quarterback and not Drew here in Denver.
All right, let's stick with the same position but go to a different team. Reports yesterday out of New England was that Mac Jones looked fantastic in the scrimmage against the Giants. Reports today are a little more mixed. How much, if at all, do you think for this specific quarterback battle, if it's close, will vaccination status play in? And by that, I mean, I'm not asking for your opinion on it. I'm not trying to put you in that spot. I just mean from an availability standpoint. Do you think that the Patriots, when you have one quarterback who is not vaccinated, one quarterback who is, and the quarterback who isn't is already missing time because of it, do you think that could tilt the scales in Mac Jones' favor?
Well, I definitely think it could tilt the scales, and it's just inevitably, when does he take over? Is it this year? Is it next year? Is it, game 1, or is it game 4? Is it game 7? So I think all those things weigh in. There's an old saying that availability is the best ability in the National Football League. I would argue that responsibility is the best ability in the National Football League. And you are responsible. Whether you like the rules or not, whether you want to be vaccinated or not, you're responsible for making sure that you're available. And the bottom line is when you're not available, somebody else is getting those reps. And the likelihood of you getting Wally pipped is much greater when you don't show up, when you can't show up, regardless if it's your fault or if it's misunderstanding or whatever the case may be. So that's what you're dealing with right now. And every one of us, for the most part, who started in this league, save a few guys who are the number one overall picks, every one of us got our opportunities because somebody else wasn't available. And that's the way this league works. And if your replacement comes in and plays better than you, guess what? You lose your job. Ask Joe Flacco in Baltimore what happened when all of a sudden he was hurt and a young quarterback came in and set the league on fire in Lamar Jackson. Like, once that happens, you don't get that job back. Ask Drew Bledsoe what happened when Tom Brady came in and got to play. Like, that's the way it works. And let's face it, since the first, 7-8 weeks of 2018, when Cam was unbelievable in those first 7 or 8 weeks under Norv Turner, since then, to no fault of his own, he's been injured. He has not performed well. And here's another opportunity with a guy you drafted in the first round who, by all intents and purposes, played exceptionally well in a scrimmage. And let me just say this. They scrimmage. The reason they do that with another team, and the reason you always see an AFC team and an NFC team, because they don't want to match up unless they match up in the Super Bowl. In the preseason, what you see is what you get. It's about execution. It's about, can you play your position without any help from anybody else? In a scrimmage like this, we're actually running our stuff because it's not going to be out there for the rest of the NFL to see. So if you can execute in that scrimmage, it's far more valuable to a football team from an evaluation standpoint than a preseason game is. Preseason games don't mean a whole lot. I mean, we've seen, hey, listen, the 2008 Detroit Lions went 4-0. They went 0-16 in the regular season. The 2017 Cleveland Browns went 4-0 in the preseason. They went 0-16 in the regular season. It's very vanilla. You're not showing anything in the preseason. These scrimmages, what's more important, 12 reps or 15 throws in a preseason game where everybody's not showing anything? They're just playing vanilla coverage. What you see is what you get. Or 40 throws in a scrimmage where they're unleashing their entire defense. It's far more valuable to coaching staffs. That's why they do it. And so that evaluation process right now in this scrimmage environment is far more valuable to the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick than any preseason game that any of these guys are going to play in.
And which is why, and from, you and I have done TV together for a while now, I've always been an advocate and supporter and fan, to be honest, of Cam. And he was coming off, and I understand what you said about preseason, but he was coming off his best preseason performance to date with the Patriots right before he got knocked out of this critical time for practices. Like, it felt like he finally had some momentum, and it felt, because in that first preseason game, it still looked like it was almost painful for him to throw the football. But in the second one, he looked sharper, he looked better, it looked less laborious to throw, and then he missed his time. And hey, opportunity, you get your foot in the door, and sometimes you kick it open and it becomes Mac Jones's job. It's staying with the quarterback position, Stank. I'm pretty sure Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start with the San Francisco 49ers. You mentioned Lamar Jackson and Joe Flacco. That was a unique situation also because even though Flacco was the starter, Lamar's played before he took over. They had a Lamar Jackson package. Now, I know Trey Lance is a mobile quarterback, but nobody's Lamar. I'm not acting like he's Lamar just because he's another athletic black quarterback. Lamar's one of one. But I think Shanahan's going to use him. I think there's going to be a Trey Lance package. Do you agree with me that that's going to happen? And if you do, how valuable do you think that could be for San Francisco?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly valuable because, like Nick, I probably in the last year talked to 12 different NFL teams. I consult for several different NFL teams. And there is not one of the teams that I talked to over the last year that aren't studying the San Francisco 49ers running game because it's that dynamic and and there's so many layers to it. And so and there's so many things where they can take one play with different entry points and asking one player to do something different or two players to do something different. So 9 guys are doing the same thing they do on 19 handoff, for instance, and they can change the entry point of 2 guys and they can make it look like, literally 8 different plays. just changing two guys' entry points. And so it's amazing the way they operate in the run game. Now all of a sudden Trey Lance rolls in there and gives you a whole nother zone read RPO type of game that they won't respect with Jimmy Garoppolo because of injuries and because he's not the athlete that Trey Lance is. So especially come red zone time, the value of having that guy. I would also say, and I would compare him more because I think it's more apt to a Taysom Hill and what he has meant. Like, to me, the New Orleans Saints would be foolish to start Taysom Hill over Jameis Winston, not because Taysom Hill is worse or better or whatever. His value as a chess piece, to me, is what makes them so hard to prepare for. Like, I think of him like the queen on a I don't play chess, but the queen on a chessboard, right? You can move him anywhere. I have seen Taysom Hill play X, play Z, play the F wide receiver, play the F tight end, play the F as in fullback, and play the quarterback position, right? And the tailback position. What is that? 8 different positions that he has played. And so as a coordinator, a defensive coordinator, that dude rolls into the game and you have to sit there and go, all right, now we're playing on our heels, because what is he playing? Is he the movement F as a fullback? Is he a movement F as a backside tight end? Is he a movement F as a slot receiver? What position is he playing? Quarterback. What is he playing right now? And now I have to make a decision without a full slate of information because I have no idea where he's going to play. Are we going to play base? Are we going to play nickel? Are we going to play dime? What are we going to play with this? And so he becomes an unbelievably valuable the most valuable chess piece, right, is like your queen, right? So he becomes that guy, or your king, I don't know, whichever one is the more valuable.
No, you
one.
got it.
You know what
you
I'm
nailed
saying.
It.
Right. So that to me is the value that Trey Lance would bring to this organization right now as he continues to develop as a pocket quarterback.
I want to ask one last question before you go. Because you talked about in the beginning there, the Niners running game. How much of that is, when you hear people talking about it or when you watch them, you're like, that is exactly what I did for Kyle's dad 20-some years ago, and how much of it has evolved? Like, how much has Kyle grown it, and how much of it is a carbon copy?
Yeah, so the root or the base or the foundation of it is a carbon copy. But it becomes very tangential off of it, right? There's a million different entry points, a million different run, and then he's also expanded what they have done. So now instead of just wide zone, tight zone, and maybe an adjunct player or two, now it's wide zone, tight zone, trap, counter, and it is just grown. It is grown. So you've taken the base and they've just grown it, and that's the difference.
Yeah, just imagine if Kyle got Terrell Davis and had Stink playing right guard, probably would have beat the Chiefs a couple years ago. Instead, still shining that Super Bowl ring, buddy. Talk to you later, Mark Schlereth. Appreciate you, my friend.
All right, buddy. Later.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.